Hello, everyone. My name is Karissa Jones, and I am a kindergarten teacher. I've been teaching kindergarten for 3 years, and I taught pre-K previously for 3 years. So this is my 6th year teaching, and today what I'm going to be teaching you about and talking to you about is how to create an engaging lesson. So when I started teaching, I learned about the I do, we do, you do model in lesson planning, which means an I do is what are you going to do to prepare your students and engage them? Like what kind of like how are you going to open the lesson to kind of gauge their interest? We do what are we going to do together to kind of practice the skill or whatever we're doing in our lesson. The you do what are you going to do independently to practice that skill? So um, that is how I set up all my lesson plans. I do what am I going to do to kind of present the skill? We do what are we going to do together? And you do what are you going to do independently? So we're going to start talking about those three components of my lesson plans or an engaging lesson plan, so that in the future you are able to build an engaging lesson plan. Obviously, all schools are ran differently, and not all lesson plans are going to be the same, and maybe yours is going to look differently, but this is all also a model that you can implement in all your lessons and your lesson plans. So we are going to start with the I do portion of a lesson plan. So when you are planning for your lesson, what are you going to do to open the lesson that's going to engage students? So when you are planning for your I do portion of the lesson, make sure the opening is one that lets students connect with what they're learning. So if I were talking about, if I were going to talk about a letter, like the letter B, rather than putting that letter up on the board, what I would do is I would put 5 pictures up that start with B, and they're going to be things that students know of, like a book, a bear, a ball, a basket. What students would do is I would ask the students, who thinks that they could tell me what our new letter of the week is going to be? And judging by the pictures, they'd be able to tell you. A lot of the times I see teachers opening their lessons with an explanation video, like those Jack Hartman videos that we see often. My suggestion is to not begin your lesson with a video that gives an explanation of the skill. You need to present your lesson with something that is going to build their interest. A video like the Jack Hartman video is a video that I would use to continuously practice the skill and reinforce the skill, but it's not a video that I would open the lesson with. Like a good example or something that I like to say to the teachers that I mentor. Imagine reading a book and the first page be a summary of the whole story. That is not going to increase their engagement. Those videos are not going to increase their engagement. It's not going to build up. So an example. So I would show a non-explanation video or show a picture, like I said earlier, with the letter B of what we're about to learn. To be able to start gauging their interests, you could provide students with a sticky note and have them draw something that they notice in the picture or in the video that you may show. Or you could even have them write the letter that they think is going to be the letter of the week. And then you can have them turn and talk to a partner about what they wrote. And then you can put their answers, they can put their sticky note answers on an anchor chart. And then we can start talking about why they chose why they chose the letter that they chose, or what everyone collectively thinks that letter of the week is going to be. This is going to gauge their interest. They have a hands-on activity. They have opportunity to talk to their peers, and they have an opportunity to think for themselves. You're going to be teaching letters, especially in early childhood, and it's important that we're not just giving a letter to them. Oh, guess what? This is the letter B. A lot of the students coming in to pre-K or even kindergarten are going to already know some of this stuff. So it's important that you open with something engaging and challenging. It's important that you differentiate the content in all different levels of understanding and learning. So making sure that you are really building up to the content that you're about to teach, not just giving it to them straightforward, because that's not going to be very engaging for them. So we're going to go, so that is the I do portion. What are you going to do? So it's always important, it's something that you're going to have to do, is to explain your why. What is your I can statement? Why are they learning what they're learning? So like if you're learning about measurement in terms of weight, you can say something like, if you are trick-or-treating, raise your hand if you want lots of candy when you are done. So if you want lots of candy, would you want the heavier candy bag or the lighter candy bag? So you're using that vocabulary that you're trying to teach them, and you're using candy, which is going to gauge their interest, because, you know, kiddos love candy. So ensuring that you're clarifying your why can be hard sometimes. So make sure you think about who kids are, their demographic, and what they can relate to when you're starting to gauge your lesson and in piquing their interest. So like my students, if I am teaching about weight, my students are from the inner city of Chicago, so I'm not going to reference a farm because that wouldn't gauge their interest. It's not something that I've noticed at the beginning of the year that they are interested in. So we're going to go ahead and move on. So now that we are gauging their interests, now we are going to talk about the we do. What are we going to do together to practice the skill to get them prepared for independent practice? So to keep things engaging, obviously they need to be doing something. It needs to be hands-on, because, you know, we notice that kids this young love to be touching things, and this is giving them an opportunity to touch things, to kind of like limit touching things that they're not supposed to be. So hands-on activities are a must. So say we are learning about the letter B, like explained previously. You have engaged them. They're starting to think about the letter B now. So what you can do to practice together is you can show a set of pictures on a board and say, I need help, friends. I have so many pictures on this board, but I have no idea which one begins with the letter B. B makes the B sound. Which pictures start with the B sound? You can split students into groups or have them work with a partner or individually. I have students work with a partner to create a circle map. A circle map is like shown like this. So you have the letter of the week in the middle, and surrounding that letter, you have things that begin with that letter. Obviously, they're not going to be, I mean, if students are ready, you can say, if you'd like to try and spell the word, you can. But I always make sure they draw the picture, and then if there's enough time, they can also write it. And this also gives students an opportunity to talk, because you also know that we know students love talking to each other. So this is giving them an opportunity while also learning at the same time. So they create a circle map. So students are drawing the pictures from the board that they believe start with the B sound. Remember, when they're learning together and you're doing this together, it is okay if they're incorrect. You have gained their interest and they're thinking and working. And the best part of this is you're not talking too much, because the last thing that students want during a lesson is just hearing you talk. Make sure you are not doing all the talking and you're giving that heavier thinking lift to the students. And that is super, super, super important if you want to keep them engaged. What are they doing on their own? How are they thinking on their own? What are they doing with their peers to kind of practice the skill that you're teaching? So they would make a circle map. And then afterwards, we would go over their circle maps. And make sure when you're doing activities like this, you give them a time frame, as it is important that they are doing things on their own and using hand-on materials. If you don't give them a time frame for how fast you want whatever you ask them to do done, they are going to take their precious time. So make sure you are giving them a time frame, and you're also giving a heads up of how long they have left. So when everybody's done with their circle maps, what I would do is I would call on a few students to show their circle map. I would have them say each word. Once they show their answers, I would go over each word with the class, emphasizing the B sound and having students put their thumbs up or down. This is the important part. So to keep students engaged, you know, it's fun when you get to show your picture, but if you're waiting to show, if you're not showing yours and you're sitting down, how are you going to continue to keep them engaged, right? So I would say, all right, if you agree and you think it does start with a B, put your thumbs up. Or if you don't think it starts with B, put your thumbs down. So not only are kids just sitting there, they are actually engaged and they're doing something physical to kind of keep with the lesson. So that is how you could continue to keep them engaged. And always praise, even though a student may have gotten it incorrect, always praise students for their efforts, because if you don't, they are going to get discouraged, and we don't want that, because once they get discouraged, they get disengaged. So make sure you're always praising students for trying their best and putting effort in. So that is something that you could do. What did we do together that kept students engaged? So remember that opening that you did, your I do, got their engagement. What did you do in the togetherness of the lesson that is going to keep them engaged? And this is a good example. So always make sure when you're doing your lessons, think about, okay, I got them engaged at the beginning, but how am I going to keep them engaged? Because we all know that kids, they're, especially when they're 4 and 5, their engagement is like plus or minus 2 of their age. So how long can they keep focused? And if it is going to be a longer lesson, what can you do to keep their engagement? So once you are done with the we do portion, this is something super important that you're going to do. How are you going to test their understanding? What are you going to do? How are you going to end your lesson? So I've noticed that when you continue the pattern of the I do, we do, you do, students feel more inclined to stay focused during the lesson, so that when they do practice independently, they know exactly what they're doing. So we know that students, especially this age, they love iPads and Chromebooks, things like that. So luckily my school has Chromebooks for all my students. So, but if you don't, you could always use like a cut and paste or something. So what I would do to check for understanding is, this is the you do portion. Remember, what are they doing on their own? Making sure that your we do prepared them for their independent practice. If your you do does not correlate with the we do, it's not going to be very effective. So making sure what they're doing independently is something that you worked on during like the whole group practice. So when I'm ending my lesson, I always clarify to students what they learned, why they learned it, and what they can do with this new knowledge. And then I provide them with independent practice. Like I said, students are technology driven. And like I said, we have Chromebooks at my school. So what I use is it's called Broom Cards. It's an app that students, here, I'll show you right now. It's an app I use with my students, and it's incredible. So here's my little teacher page, and here is, this is my classroom of students from last year. So they all have their own profile. I can see the last time they logged on. Obviously, it's been a while because, we've been out of school, but you have all your classes, all your students there. Ignore this one. He got a little crafty with his name. And then they go their assignments, and you would see an assignment that they have to do. In this case, it would be of a letter. So right here under library, what you can do is you can download all of these different practice games, and right here next to folders, I try to organize it. So if your independent practice is about letters, you click on the letter section, and then you'd find the letter that you're working on. For this example, I'm going to show you the letter V. So if I just learned all about the letter V, my we do prepared me, I'm ready, I am engaged, I think I understand. What they're going to do is they are going to get on their computers, and they're going to play this game all about the letter V. They can listen to all these different words. They can practice writing it just like that. And when they're done, they go to the next button. And then they're going to do the lowercase v. And then they're going to find each. Oh, oops, here, we'll skip it. It'll tell me whoops if I got the wrong answer, but we're just going to skip it. And then eventually, you can sort, and eventually you're going to get to find the picture that begins with the sound. So it's important that a lot of these pictures, if you notice, so it's important that you look at this entire thing before they play it to make sure that there's no discrepancies or a picture that they might not know what it is. So I like to go through this before they do it on their own. So what they're going to do is they have to think about what they learned. What did I learn about this letter? And then they have to say each picture and they have to choose which one starts with V. And then they're going to go to the next one. Same deal with this one. Same deal with this one. And they just keep going, they keep practicing. And there's a few pages about the sound and finding the letters. When they are all done, on my end, I get to go to reports and see how they did. So this is going to tell me, this is going to tell me how they did, what they might have missed, what they have gotten correct, so that later, if I notice some students didn't perform very well, I can take them in a small group and kind of work with them on the skill that that they need more help with, more practice. So that is just one really engaging component of the independent practice that you can do. There are a bunch of things like this out there. I just like this one because they have games for every skill and standard you can think of. But like I said, if they don't have technology, then you can do like a sorting, like a cut and glue sort, words that start with V, words that don't start with V. There's a lot of things that you can do, but it's important that in your engaging lesson, you give them an opportunity to work on their own to see what they've learned. And it's an important part of a lesson. So remember, you have your I do, what did you do to gauge their interest? We do, what did you do together as a class to work on the skill, and what did you do during that to keep their interest? In the you do, what did they do on their own that's engaging, that tested their knowledge? And using this I do, we do, you do model has been a game changer for my classroom. I'm really, really glad I learned about this. It has helped me structure my lesson plans. And it's also, it sounds like a lot of work, but once you get used to the flow, it's going to be easy. It's going to be, you could do it in your sleep. So this is just another way that you can create an engaging lesson plan for your kiddos. I strongly suggest that you use this I do, we do, you do model, just because it is incredibly engaging. Thank you guys.